Okay, let's take a look at the elevation of this reactor, primary heat exchanger, and the fuel salt drain tanks. The first thing we're going to notice is the reactor is way up high, the primary heat exchanger is way down low. There's a long shaft to get to the pump's in this area. And if you get them at the same scale and you line up the floors, you'll see that this floor is way down here. You'll also notice that there's two fuel salt drain tanks, one here and one here. Now, why is that? Why do they have it in such a strange configuration with a lot of vertical? This up here, this down here, this up here, this down here. Why not just one big one? Now let's look at the fuel in context. This is the fuel in the reactor here. This is the fuel in the primary heat exchanger. And coming on the back side, we have the higher drain tank and the lower drain tank. Okay, so there's your mechanical context. So let's turn everything off and just look at the fuel. There we go. There's just the fuel. Now this blue is helium. So how does this fuel and the helium move around? So this is the fuel configuration in normal operation. If we look at this detailed view of the pump, here the fuel I have colored transparent green. There are these blades right there. That's the pump. This spins at 1,160 RPMs and forces the fuel salt down. So it sucks it out of the reactor in here and forces it down. That's how it works. So we go back to our fuel. Remember, this is just the fuel with no mechanicals. The pump is down here and is forcing everything down through the inner tubes and then up through this tube and over here and up here. Now, that is what is keeping this filled. If that pump were to shut off, the fluid would no longer be pushed down here. It would then rise up and go to this overflow pipe right there. And it'll immediately start draining, even before the freeze plugs thaw out. It'll come out here, it'll come into this pipe here, and it will go into your first drain tank. This higher drain tank is separated from this drain tank with the freeze valve. So when this pump shuts off, all the fuel that was held above it will then flood into here, flood up in this valve, come over to this drain tank, and it will only fill this much of the drain tank. The reason this looks bigger is because this is mostly space. Okay? When that's all condensed, this orange here is the same volume. So the plant is still operational. There's still power to this freeze valve. This procedure is for only shutting down criticality in the reactor for whatever reason. You shut the switch off and it all drains into here. This is not an emergency situation. This is just something that they built into the system. Now, if they want to drain out all the fuel from the reactor would already be in here. Once the pump is shut down, it will fill. Then there's a drain pipe right here. I don't quite have it pointing in the right position, but it comes out here, goes down here, and connects into this and fills up this way. And with power loss to the site, this freeze valve thaws out and they both equalize. Let's see how the volumes work out. Here, in normal operation, we have about 12.5 cubic meters of the orange. 4.6 is in the reactor, 7.7 is everything else. So now we shut the pump off. Now with the pump off, all the fuel drains down to this level here where the overflow pipe is, and it drains into there. If they turn the pump back on again, they pressurize this and that pushes the fuel back up through this pipe and goes back on and they can start it up. This allows them to start and stop the reactor for whatever reason that they want. So we see here that the fuel in dump tank number 1, this orange right here, is 4.6, which is the same as it was in this reactor here, including these discs down here, 4.6. So it can hold the volume. Then over here, we have the complete system drained and both dump tanks filled, which totals 12.5 cubic meters, which matches this 12.5 cubic meters when it's running. So there you have 3 states. It's operational. You turn the pump off only for some sort of maintenance or some sort of check. You only drain the fuel salt here to here. You turn it back on, it sucks it back up, throws it back in, and then you're back up to this again, operational. If you want to drain everything completely or the plant loses power, well, as soon as the pump shuts off, your fuel salt in the reactor is going to drain way before your freeze valves thaw out, But then when the freeze valve at the bottom of this heat exchanger thaws out, it goes in here, and then they become a shared unit. So going back to this, that's why the reactor is up high, that's why primary heat exchanger is down low, and that's why you have two drain tanks at different heights. And just to comment on this fuel salt drain tank, the sizing of this, I modeled exactly what they had here. The height, the diameter, it holds the same volume as what was in this reactor. And you can see I've got it all drilled out according to what they specified. So somebody figured out the volume all in between all these pipes to match this whole system. So the people that made these drawings, this is not a cut and paste from some other project and was just thrown in here. This and its height and its volume and all its dimensions works with this. It works with this. It works with these volumes. All the heights work out. That is a phenomenal job of engineering from the only people on the planet who actually had experience with a molten salt reactor.